The 13th principle of the science of success reads like this. I'm going to read it to you because I want to get it correct. It says, every defeat, every disappointment, and every adversity carries seeds of equivalent benefit. And the word seeds is important in this principle. I can think of no better example which to share with you in which this principle is being put into action than to share my own story. And I want to preface my story by telling you there were 3 seeds that were implanted in me as a young man. Number 1 was faith. I was given faith in God and a higher power and infinite intelligence by my Father. Hope was right next to it, and Dr. Hill talks about this when he says faith. Wherever there's faith, hope is standing next to it. And I had hope. And I had love too. I had a mother's love, a father's love, and love from grandparents who would love me unconditionally. So I had these 3 things present early in my life which I needed to use. And the situation which I went through as a young kid was this. My mother and I were in a store one day and we ran into a gentleman from her past. And I think she knew him from high school and in her hometown. And they exchanged information. She was divorced at the time and they began seeing each other. What happened after that was a period of about 10 years of emotional and verbal abuse from this gentleman. And it was tough. It was tough. If you have any thoughts of pity party, I'll ask you to reconsider. Don't go there because the story ends well. And I'm going to tell you how it ends here in a few minutes. But that went on for a period of time. And as we got away from it about 8 to 10 years later, I realized that I wasn't right. As a child growing up, for those pivotal years, you realize that things are not the way you think they should be, right? You realize that you're not the way everybody else is. And so I had to take a look at that. And one day, something funny happened. I realized, I don't remember where, but I realized that I had the power to choose. And up to that point, I had not had that ability to realize I had the power to choose. When you're in a situation like this, you just get to the next day. You're not choosing anything. You're choosing just to get through it. And so it was not an aha moment for me. It was one of those. The sky opens, the light comes down, and I realized that I had the power to choose. And that was a brilliant moment for me. You know, some of us remember moments, remember our birthdays, remember the day our kids are born, the day we got married. I remember this moment. It was one of those moments for me that I had the power to choose. You mean to tell me that I can choose something different? And I really realized that for the first time. So I put that in my back pocket and I went on with my life. I had a good job, I had a home, everything on the outside was great. But inside, I was a mess. And I was trying to figure it out. And I was just taking the next step, whatever that was. I felt defeated, I felt less than, I felt not worthy, all those things. And I was just trying to feel better. I was just trying to feel better. And so patterns began to emerge in my life. And I began noticing, with the power of choice in my back pocket, I began noticing patterns. A lot of my relationships were ending the same way. And I put every excuse out there. You know, it's them. They got the issues. It's not me. And then all of a sudden something happened. I realized there was a common denominator there that was present in all these relationships and situations, and the common denominator was me, right? And so I had to look at myself in a much more detailed fashion. I had an uncle who was a Catholic priest. He had a little saying in his bathroom, in the corner of the mirror. He had a little saying in his bathroom. So when he walked in the bathroom, he would see this little message every time. It said, "You are looking at the problem." Right? You were looking at the problem, and in that moment I realized I was the problem. That's a negative connotation when you see that note there. So if I was a problem, then I could be the solution too. I could be the solution. So I began to think that way. I began to think about being the solution. And not long after that, I was going through some programs at Nightingale Conant, and I saw the Science of Personal Achievement. Napoleon Hill has an audio set with that company. I knew who Napoleon Hill was, but I didn't know his work. I didn't really know it. So I ordered the audio tapes, and I fell in love with them. I fell in love with all the principles. The one principle that stood out beyond all others was learning from adversity and defeat. And when I read the principle that there are seeds of an equivalent benefit in every adversity, every disappointment, there's a seed there if you choose to look for it. I thought, wow. You mean to tell me that this situation that we've been in, we can get through this? There's actually an end here? You mean to tell me I can do that? I didn't quite know what to think about that. And I had to sit with it for a while. But that day, that seed of equivalent benefit was born. So we all have seeds that lie within us. And they're waiting for us to take the next step, to step into what we need to be so that seed can emerge and get all the water and the sunshine and the nutrients that it needs to grow within us and continue to grow within us for the rest of our life, giving us strength, giving us energy, giving everything we need to get through anything that comes our way. And so I began to think about that, and that seed of an equivalent benefit was born in me that day. And so years went by. I still had some work to do. I felt it deep down. So I said, okay, what is next? And then I said, maybe I need to forgive this guy for all of this stuff. Maybe I need to forgive him. So I did. I said, you know what? He probably had a similar situation in his childhood. He had probably gone through it, and he was just recycling the stuff, and I forgave him. Years went by. Continued to work, continued to do things, and there was something else missing there. There was something else missing, and I didn't know what it was. I sent out a message to the universe, and I said, I'm ready. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I said, I'm ready. If you're ready, then I'm ready. And they said, are you sure you're ready? And I said, yes, I'm sure I'm ready. And then things began to happen that I couldn't have paid money for. I ran upon this lady who talked about shame. I was interested in it. I knew I couldn't get to that final missing piece by myself. I went to talk to a psychologist and a doctor, and she said, do this. She said, go back to that time of abusive situation. Go back and look at the little boy inside you and tell me what you see. Write it down on paper. And so I did that. And what happened was amazing. I went back. I found an 11-year-old boy standing in the driveway, waiting for someone to come get him. And no one was coming to get me. So I had myself, as a 40-year-old man, to go back and put my arm around that little 11-year-old boy and tell him it's okay, that he's done his job, that it's all right, he can come now, it's fine. Because what I was trying to do was I was the man of the house at 11. It was my responsibility to get this other gentleman out of the house. I had no tools, I had no resources to do that. And for me, that was a failure. That was a failure every day, over and over and over again. So it took a while for me to gain a positive outlook on the situation. But I did it through the power of choice. I did it through continuing to learn from adversity and defeat every day. I forgave him. And in that moment, when I put my arm around the little boy, I forgave myself. I forgave myself. And it was a beautiful moment. It was March 11, 2011. I'll never forget the day. It was unbelievable. And I was ready to have a party at that point. Because this whole big situation, this entirely big situation that seemed larger in life, that seemed impossible, now was possible. I was now felt peace in my heart. I felt at the end of it. This huge thing that I felt like I never would get to the end of suddenly did this. And I saw it. The entire thing. From beginning to end, I saw the entire thing and it was beautiful. I understood now from this perspective. I was meant to go through that situation. I was meant to understand pain in this depths. I was meant to understand the power of choice. I was meant to continue to find a positive mental attitude in a very negative situation. I was meant to forgive him, and I was meant to forgive myself, so that I would have the ability to help others do the same. That's perspective that you can't pay money for. I could have paid $100,000 for that perspective that day, and it wouldn't have been enough. It would not have been enough. There's seeds within us that are meant to be born and meant to come to the surface and meant to grow. If only we'll take the next step. If only we'll take the next step, and you only have to take the next step. That's all that's required of you. And those seeds will present themselves if you're looking for them, and you'll continue to grow from adversity. You'll look for opportunities that you never thought were possible. And that, my friends, is the 13th principle, learning from adversity and defeat in action.